Hi, I'm Greg Jeffers. Please listen to this video clip of Senator Kennedy of Louisiana in a Senate hearing for a federal judge confirmation of a Judge Lynn. I'm not sure if she's a federal judge going to the appellate court or a state judge going to the federal bench, the federal district courts, but listen to the interview and then
Judge Lynn, I've read a number of your writings. I want to, you wrote an article in December of 1998 entitled Person of Faith, Race and Religion as Experiential Knowledge. You wrote it in a journal called Perspective. And this is what you said, I quote, your words, not mine. The problem with the Christian coalition is not that they are Bible thumpers, parentheses, there are personal beliefs that often result from religious experiences, close parentheses, but that they are bigots, end of quote. Did I quote that correctly?
I believe you did.
Did you write that?
I did write that when I was 18 years old, or 20 years old, excuse me. I do want to be clear. I do not agree with that today. I wrote that before I went to law school, before I had any kind of
You were a grown woman when you wrote this.
I'm sorry?
You were a grown woman when you wrote this.
I was 20 years old when I wrote it. It was before I had a professional career.
You were in your third year at Harvard?
I was
A senior at Harvard?
I was a junior at Harvard.
Junior. So you were 3/4 of the way through your Harvard education, and you wrote that.
I have no idea who Judge Lynn is, what she believes now, or how she would handle her responsibilities on the bench. And I make no particular criticism of her findings as a 20-year-old. My criticism is directed at Harvard. They took this very bright young woman and they created a monster. Now, maybe that monster grew up and is now become a human being, but at 20, she was a product of her environment, and her environment produced that. And it is those people with whom I take exception, not Judge Lynn. I don't know her well enough to have an opinion on Judge Lynn. I named this podcast the Flyoverland Podcast in honor of the people, the cabal, if you will, of people who look down their nose at the working people that live between New York City and West LA, who flying back and forth to their media positions and their entertainment industry positions and sometimes in finance, refer to the ground in between JFK Airport and LAX as flyoverland. Now, many people living out here don't know that that's how the elites view you. You've probably heard the term deplorable. Well, in Judge Lynn's exposition when she was 20, it was bigot. But they feel rather disdainful and dismissive of the people who drill all of the oil wells, drive all of the trucks, fell all of the trees, catch all of the fish, and do all of the farming. Go figure.
Unfortunately, some members of the media
use their platforms
to push their own personal bias.
and agenda to control exactly what people think. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Now, there is a cabal, a deep state, if you like. Someone, some group is quarterbacking this. The cooperation between the government, academia, and the media and entertainment industries is just too vast to be a coincidence. This very powerful group of people controls the media and has the power to bestow fame and influence on the chosen, or to banish their enemies to obscurity. That's what cancel culture and censorship accomplishes. They are just some tools in the toolbox of control over who gets heard. Now, this cabal is very much like the old Sicilian and New York mafias. You must not mention its name. You must not speak its name. They use soldiers, and in this case, useful idiots, in their efforts to destroy Western civilization. Now, many of the people in this group are Marxists, but many fall under the postmodernist ideology. They are close, but they are not the same thing at all. More on that later. I think the Cabal actually believes that they can separate Christianity from Western civilization and destroy the former, and that the latter will survive in an enlightened and modified form under their control and tutelage. And I think if we allow this to happen, we do so at our peril.
Christianity, which at least as it used to be taught, and that the way it's taught now is changing, unfortunately, used to be based on the idea that you are actually a sinful person and that you should strive to be better. Whereas the current orthodox, I would say, in British schools at least, is you are a marvellous person and you should be outraged by everything that's wrong with other people.
Somehow, I hope to get through to the millennials, especially millennial men. Men value freedom, at least they did back when they knew what a man was, because it was men who paid the price for the liberty we now enjoy in the Anglosphere. Men were the combatants and the casualties in the struggles that, in our case, produced the incredible individual rights and liberties we now enjoy. The freest, most prosperous, and safe civilization in history. So how did we get here?
I mean, the Magna Carta has meaning as the still point of an explosion of an idea. Ideas flow outward. You know, people like to go back and point out that the people who said all men are created equal held slaves. Well, yes, because an idea is like a seed. It doesn't just you plant that seed, and it's not like magically the world is transformed, but it grows, and it grows in a certain way. It grows into itself. And Magna Carta begins with a bunch of people who were what we would now call privileged people saying to the king, you know, we don't want you pushing us around all the time. And it ends with the idea that all men are created equal. That is Magna Carta. It's just Magna Carta grown into that great tree from the mustard seed that it begins with.
You see, Judge Lynn was a victim of Harvard, a victim of their ideology, a victim of their indoctrination, a victim of their rejection of the truth of American history. We are the most important, most unusual country in the history of mankind. And in their effort to destroy men, Christianity, and everything that stands in their way of total control, they're willing to sacrifice a few bodies along the way. And what I really want to know now from Judge Lynn, the mature and experienced jurist, is how does she feel about what Harvard did to her when she was a teenager and 20-something young woman? Who would write something like that? It didn't come out of thin air. It came out of her influences, and it darn near destroyed her. I wonder if she recognizes what these people are trying to do to the rest of us. Well, that's it for me. Thank you. I'm Greg Jeffers for the American Quaker Friends Church.